Hi, Janet. Hello, everybody. Let's just give another round of applause to this amazing film. Oh my God. Amazing. My name is Serena Kim, and I'm the acting chair of the board of the MNFF. And I have the privilege here to host this Q&A, and I have some questions prepared for them, and we'll make it brief, and then I'll allow for some Q&A, some questions from the audience. So I guess my first question is for Ben. It's just burning a hole in because it's like, for me, so much about skiing and snowboarding culture in Vermont and in the US is about class. And I wonder what role that class played in Afghanistan and the establishment of skiing there.
Yeah, it's a fascinating question, and I know this is not answering your question, but as soon as I came back from Afghanistan, I went straight to a photo shoot in Vail, Colorado. And everyone was wearing fur, and everyone had like this year's skis and like $1,000 jackets, and I was like, I come directly from Afghanistan where, I always say that it's just the most pure ski culture I've ever experienced. It's just like, it's this raw, beautiful thing where it's not about money, it's just purely about the joy of walking up into the hills behind your house and sharing in this amazing communal experience of enjoying nature together. And so that was like, I just remember being at that Vail shoot, just being so depressed, like this is not what skiing should be. So yeah, it really is, in Afghanistan, particularly in Bamiyan, it was this force to bring people together, like this really unifying force that just, I don't know, like you could make friends, everyone could become friends and bond over this common thing. And as you see in the film, even Mushtaba and Hussein Ali, they do come from a little bit, by Western standards, they're still like, they're both potato farmers, but within their own village, they had their own differences, and this physical act of getting out into nature together was able to overcome those differences. So yeah, it's a really beautiful tool. I think of skiing as like a translational tool, and sport as a translational tool, a way to bring people together and kind of bridge divides and get them to understand one another, where they maybe thought there wasn't much understanding before.
That message is loud and clear in the film. Can both of you sort of tell me about your, you can each go, like your kind of life story, I guess? Like how you ended up here, your education, your background, and how you ended up making the films that you made.
Well, that's a big question. Okay, long story short, I used to do a lot of performance work. Actually, another performer in LA is here. I did a lot of performance and theater work, and then I went to grad school for theater and performance, but I was working a lot interdisciplinary with video, and that transitioned me into video, and then I've been behind the camera since. So editing is kind of like my central force or attraction within filmmaking. And the reason I bring up performance is because with performance, what's so special about it is the final product is there's the live moment. There's so much up to chance. With editing, when I discovered the power of control in the editing room, I really enjoyed that freedom. So that's what brought me to this. Yeah.
Well, yeah, the film was beautifully edited. The first 30 seconds I was watching, I was like, man, like I would not have thought to edit that way. That's like so like profound. It's so amazing to see like your personality on the screen through editing. Okay, so yeah, I'm from Alaska, so I'm a mountain guy, and I basically grew up skiing and snowboarding, and then I went to school in Colorado and kept doing it there. And I started making ski films, and it was in the vein of Warren Miller for many years, going around the world, making Japan, whatever random place that had mountains and snow, I would go there and film ski films. And so happened to find Afghanistan in 2019, heard about the amazing ski culture there, and went over there thinking that we would just make another little ski film. And initially it was just supposed to be that. It was supposed to be 10-minute short, fun ski film. And but we found this amazing, rich, beautiful story, and this kind of really incredible dynamic between the two young guys, and we're like, wow, and then of course the race itself just went so perfectly. It was like this storybook ending, so we're like, okay, wow, this is something, let's make a 40-minute film. So I spent 2 years working on that edit. I edited it as well, and spent 2 years working on that, and was about to release it in 2021 when Afghanistan collapsed. And then, of course, that totally reset the entire thing, and we had to scrap that film entirely, go back into production. We rang up Ali Shah, who is in Germany, and we said, "Hey, could we just sit down and talk to you and just try to make sense of what just happened?" And that was kind of the beginning of the film as it is today.
So, Justin, I was stalking your Instagram, and I noticed that you mentioned that you found Dale through your friend. Can you tell us the backstory behind how the idea of the film came about?
Yeah. So I'm very good friends with Dale's daughter, and Bailey. And Bailey brought me to the LA Phil to see her, or the Hollywood Bowl to see the LA Phil perform. And she told me that her mom practices for hours on end in front of a big flat screen TV playing football. And so it was that image that really stuck in my head, because when I was younger, I did classical music, and this juxtaposition of like this kind of a very rigorous classical training with like this brute male sport. I just thought that I wanted to capture that image. So that was the seed. Yeah.
So, what do you think, being the identity of Asian Americanness, what that means to Dale, or does it even matter to her?
Yeah, there's just one little moment in this doc where she talks about being the first Asian woman in the LA Phil. I think that was a big component of her career within the LA Phil, but she had just retiring still felt really fresh to her, and I don't think she really wanted. I think there certainly was some lived trauma being in that career as an Asian woman. When she first started in the LA Phil, or the world of symphony and orchestral music, it was heavily dominated by white men, and so I know that posed a lot of difficulty for her, but she didn't really want to delve into that very much, and so I kind of had to respect that. And this was part of the practice of making this piece, was how to try to make something quickly. So I had to respect some boundaries there, because she probably would have played much longer, but then COVID happened, and that kind of inserted this idea of, oh, maybe I can move on from this chapter. Yeah.
Actually, that's one of the things we liked about it, that it wasn't so front and center and like belabored. My child and I were both Asian Americans, so back to you. It's kind of weird jumping around from topic to topic, but what does the Islamic scripture say about athleticism or sport?
That's actually a wonderful question. I really don't know. I have felt very lucky to have filmed in a number of Muslim countries around the world, and I think it's like a fabulous, beautiful culture. But I'm not Muslim myself. I can't pretend to say that I know much about that component of what's in Scripture. But I do know that in that particular village in Bamyan, it was just an incredibly supported activity. Like even the Mustafa's father, who you say he's a strict guy. He saw the benefits of athleticism and competition and what it was teaching the youth there in the village. So I wish I had a better answer for you.
Hello? Oh, okay. I think this is kind of an interesting opportunity to let you ask the other person a question, if there is one. If there isn't, then I'm going to turn it to the audience.
Well, that's fun. I just loved your film. I thought she was I don't know. I was wondering, so you filmed, you did multiple interviews with her. First of all, I was curious, how long, over what course of time that happened, but also, one of them, she was just standing, and she just seems like she has such, energy, and she's moving around and kind of, bouncing around on her toes, and she just seems so full of spark and energy, and I was wondering if it was intentional. I remember watching it being was that intentional to, film her standing up, because she's just moving so much?
That's her at home. She can't stay still. There was quite a juxtaposition between the capturing of her talking and then capturing her playing. Her playing was in the LA Phil for 40 years. She was the associate principal for nearly 15. And when I first started filming her, I had to hide myself in the bathroom because she didn't want me in the room. So she's still very neurotic, anxious, I don't know if anyone was here earlier saw this Anxiety Club movie. Like that is Dale. She's like a highly successful musician and just so anxious and neurotic. So that stuff was difficult to capture. I had to really warm up to her, but her personality is a bit of a show. She's so charismatic, you know. So that just makes me think, how did you find particularly, your three subjects, the coach, and then the two kind of competitors who became friends?
Yeah, so Ali Shah, his reputation kind of preceded him. Because he tried to get to the Olympics and be the first Afghan guy to go to the Winter Olympics. He'd had a bunch of media made about him. So, there was a few like YouTube videos, and I remember watching him before I went over there, being like, wow, this guy's really well enunciated. He's like such a good speaker, but there's so much already told about his story. Let's not make the story about Ali Shah. And so we went over there, and he was our guide. But I was like, hey, Ali Shah, like, who's going to win the race this year? Like, who's the main guys we should be watching? And he's like, oh, go check out Mushtaba. So we go and film Mushtaba, and really, it's a fascinating just example of how documentary works, because like when we were there, like we were focused on the two younger guys. We weren't really focused on Ali Shah. And it was near the end, at the very last minute, I was like, well, maybe we should go talk to Ali Shah and just like get his interview. And that's almost all that we shot with him there. And then we got his interview, and I was like, oh my gosh, he provides so much context to what we're seeing. There's all these like undercurrents with the two young guys that they're kind of just like butting heads, these young energies, but we don't really understand what's going on. And Ali Shah was the guy who allowed us to like put words to what was happening there. And so that was like, oh man, how did it take me so long to get this interview? But we didn't shoot that much else with him outside of that. And then, so I edited that 40-minute film, and like the two guys were the main guys, and Ali Shah was just a little more background. And it was only after Afghanistan collapsed and Ali Shah was the one who was able to get out. We were trying to figure out the next steps for the film. We had no idea which way to go, and that's when we went to Germany and sat down and just had multiple 5-hour interviews with him. And it was only then that he really started to solidify as the main character of the film. So it's pretty fascinating that you can make a whole film and kind of like change your main character midway through.
Thanks for that. Now I'd like to see if there's anybody in the audience that has a question. Yeah, I saw an arm flicker. Yeah?
How is it that Ali Shah was so fluent in English?
It was through ski coaching, really. There's actually quite a number of skiers that would go to Afghanistan prior to the collapse who were going there skiing in the winter, and Ali Shah would guide them. Yep, and Euros, actually Switzerland was very involved in the initial foundation of the actual Afghan ski challenge. And so he went over to Europe and trained, and so he learned some German there a little bit, and he learned a lot of English while he was training in Europe. And then of course, people like me would come through and make, and media would be coming through. So he picked it up pretty quick, and he's a very smart guy. I think he speaks 5 languages. So yeah.
I'm just curious how big the team was in going into the small village, and if you were welcomed warmly, or if they felt like maybe some of the elders or others felt like it was an imposition, and also bringing in all this camera equipment with the idea that the women weren't to be filmed. Did you feel like you were walking on eggshells the whole time, or how did you feel?
Yeah, it's a nuanced question. I think there's a couple of aspects to it. On one hand, I would say, I was like, just went in with my snowboard. We had 2 guides, essentially, 2 cameramen, and then we had one kind of field producer. So it was a very small crew. So we weren't like, of course we're foreigners, so like everyone knows when we're there, but like it's not like we had a huge, massive crew that kind of disrupted everything. But yeah, we just went in, and the first thing we did was just go skiing. Like we went out into the mountains with these guys and just went skiing, and our translator couldn't come along, so it was just us up there in the mountains with them, and they showed us all their favorite spots and showed us how their gear worked, and they like tried out our gear and we tried out their gear, and like I guess that's what a little bit I was saying. Skiing is this translational tool. It's like even though we couldn't talk to these guys when we were up there without our translator, we were speaking through just being in the mountains and navigating the mountains and avalanche terrain and all that stuff, you know. So it very quickly, I think we earned this sense of trust with some of with the younger guys who were skiing, and like, you know, we were like instant buddies for like the whole time that we were there. And but I would say the other side of that, you know, like the village dynamics were interesting. Like, you know, the older guys were a little more suspicious, and certainly we were all male crews, so we were not allowed to, you know, all the women, you know, had to go inside basically when we were there, and you know, we totally respected that and understood that. But you know, we basically had to do some kind of like, it took a little while for us to kind of like gain the trust of like the elders, and eventually I think we were able to like come to like, I think the hardest thing was probably getting the prayer scenes with Mushtaba and going inside and just like getting access to that. But you know, after a few weeks of being there, they were like, okay, like we can find a way to make this work. And then I would say, like, pulling back even further, you know, just in terms of safety in Afghanistan, it was like the entire time I felt like really great. I was like, wow, I didn't expect to feel so comfortable, but in reality, like, it just felt so warm, so accommodating, so like just the people there are so beautiful and so, you know, that give you the shirt off their back, you know, really, really beautiful culture and people. And we just felt honored to be there, and I felt incredibly safe the whole time. But then I remember, like, near the end of it, our guide was on the phone with this guy, and I was like, who's that? He's like, oh, that's just the police. And I was like, why are you talking to the police? He's like, oh, I talk to them like every hour. And I'm like, what, the police? He's like, yeah, they're right over there. And like, we apparently had like a police escort the entire time, and I like had no idea about it the entire time, but they were just kind of like in the background, like taking care of us and making sure we didn't go into the wrong spot or anything. So that was kind of interesting, you know. So like a little bit walking on eggshells after that, but it felt very easy in general.
Oh, wait, I have a question. What's the terrain like when you're skiing?
Yeah, I don't know how many, well, I'm sure there's some skiers here. This is Vermont. But, and actually, I don't know if you noticed, but there's some Mad River Glen stickers in the film. So actually, that's a whole other story. But basically, Ali Shah almost made it over to Vermont. He almost got relocated here after after the collapse. The town of Mad River Glen was going to sponsor him and give him a job, you know, basically put him up, give him a car, give him a lodging. And it all fell apart. Like, the immigration case didn't go through, and they tried multiple times to overturn it and were unsuccessful. So after that, he kind of committed to his life in Germany, but he almost came here. But yeah, for your question, the terrain there it's fascinating. It's like really, really, I mean, massive mountains. We're talking 14,000 feet plus, and you know, pretty kind of scary snow, lots of avalanches. It's very, very, they call it a continental snowpack. So there's lots of, it's very dry, and that creates really pretty rough avalanche conditions. But amazing mountains, and as you see, it's just like it's desert that's got snow on it. It's such a unique landscape. There's really no, I mean, I've, you know, like I alluded to, have filmed a lot in various mountains around the world, and it's one of the most unique mountain landscapes I've ever seen.
Yes, in the back, the cameraman?
Ben, can you just talk a little bit more about the girl skiers? Because I think it touched on, Serena had a question at the beginning sort of about class and skiing. And I noticed at the time, like, the girls had, you know, Western ski equipment. The boys had homemade stuff. And I was just wondering, you know, is that more likely, like, parents that would allow girls even to try skiing? You know, was that, how'd that factor in?
Yeah, there's definitely a class component there. You know, we didn't really have time in the film to get into the nuance of it, but essentially, like, the women's ski team, they come from the city of Banyan. And so these are girls who are like, you know, their parents work at the university. Their parents are like doctors or what have you. They generally come from like more well-off families within the community that felt comfortable sending their kids to go skiing. But in terms of like girls and women from the villages where Mushtaba and Hussein Ali were, who were in these remote parts, just, I mean, that's incredibly conservative, and like they were not allowed to ski. So yeah, the ladies that you saw did have like good ski gear, and they were able to, they had access to that sport, which still was a very, very big deal. You know, it's in Afghanistan, like that's a very unheard of thing. So that was a very progressive thing that was happening. But it was kind of, I would say, in the sort of probably upper socioeconomic tier of that area. Yeah. And just to note, like, you know, all those women are they're all out of Afghanistan now. A number of them are in Minnesota. They're all around the world, and they weren't safe living under the Taliban rule. So they pretty much, as soon as the government started to collapse, the entire women's ski team had to leave. So that was a really terrible and dramatic event as that was all happening, which, we're actually celebrating the 4-year anniversary is right now. It's basically August 15th to August 31st was the U.S. withdrawal. So, it's hard to believe that 4 years have passed. But as all that was happening, the film team was trying to assist a lot of those people getting out. And we were able to help get out a lot of the female skiers from Afghanistan. Many of whom are now in Germany with German visas like Aisha.
Okay, way in the back.
All right, thank you. First, I want to congratulate both of you guys for your films. And I wanted to ask you, Ben, how this film what is your impression of its effect on your trajectory? You were saying before you were videographer, or you were more centered towards commercial ski videos, short form. And now that you have this feature-length documentary, how do you think this is going to change your trajectory as a director, especially as a story that is not yours, that is Afghanistan?
It's a good question. I mean, you work on a film for 7 years and you kind of just want to do anything else. So, I don't know. I'm like, maybe I should just go, become a flight attendant or do anything else. And yeah, it's taken a long time. It's been a long journey. And, like I said, it's, initially it was just supposed to be like a month-long thing. It was going to be like a 10-minute project. And it just became something so much more. And at a certain point, it was almost like there was no way out but through, if that makes sense. Like, we just had to keep making the film. Otherwise, all the investment into it that we put over years would mean nothing. So it's just like, you just have to just keep going. And it's like, at a certain point, it's like you're in Vegas and it's just like, okay, I just put so much money down, and the only way to make sure that I get it is keep gambling. And so, the whole thing has been a gamble, and it's paid off in so many amazing ways. I can't even begin to describe to you. It's been a really incredible, meaningful experience. It's changed my life fundamentally. And so many amazing moments. Ali Shah, one of them, he came to our world premiere, Tribeca, last year, and got to go to a number of film festivals last summer. And then last winter he came again, and we got to do 3 film festivals in Anchorage, Alaska, and Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and Aspen. And he got to go skiing in all those places. And just being able to share that experience with him, still gives me shivers on my spine. So it's been incredibly meaningful in so many ways, and I think it's as a career highlight, it's definitely been the project of my life. But I don't know if I'm gonna sign up for another one immediately, but sooner or later it'd be fun to just see what else is out there. Yeah.
Thank you.
You had a question too, right? No, okay. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to ask Justin about the football screen and playing. Did you get any insight from her about why she does that or what that was?
She likes to watch football or action movies like Jurassic Park while practicing. How can I don't know if I quite remember how it clearly had some kind of logic to her. I'm not quite sure I fully understood, but there's something about, she's not fully paying attention to it, but there's something about that kind of noise and movement happening and how that contrasts with her focus on the music. It somehow helps her. It somehow gets her in the zone. Yeah.
Curious, yeah.
All right, last question, Janet.
A question of the Afghan people who are still in Afghanistan. Are you able to be in touch with them, or is it through other channels, or how's that working?
Yeah, WhatsApp. WhatsApp rules the world. So yeah, we're in touch with Ali Shah and Mushtaba. Ali Shah's in touch with them all the time because they're involved in the current rendition of the ski program. And they do have a new version of the ski program going. And I love this fact, but they had another version of it in March, and the boss won. He's 17 now, almost Mustafa's age in the film. He's taller than me, and he's carrying on the flame. So that's really, really cool. And also, we were able to share the film with them at last year's race. After the race, they all sat down, and we sent them at the time it was just about finished cut of the film before we premiered. couple months later, Tribeca, and they got to sit down after the race and like eat popcorn and watch the film. So I think they're doing okay. Like things are really, really tough in Afghanistan, as we all know, and the Taliban is just incrementally kind of chipping away at civil liberties and rights. But I think for them, it's okay. Like they're pretty far removed out in the mountains, and they kind of like life isn't too terribly different for them because they raise potatoes. But I think certainly for the women in the city and particularly in Kabul, like it's just a completely different world. It's really devastating to see, and I think like everyone is very aware that they're taking the brunt of the horror that this current regime is. Yeah.
I'm shocked they were allowed to watch the movie.
Yeah, and it's very complicated. Like Bamyan they've always been kind of rebellious, and the Taliban have never it's a Hazara thing as well. Like there aren't too many Taliban Hazara, which is the majority of the people who are in Bamyan. So the Taliban have always kind of like tiptoed around Bamyan, and they're there and they have a presence, but they know that they can't like put too much pressure on that area because of like centuries of conflict that I can't really entirely speak to.